Hey guys, welcome back. This is I've Seen That Movie Too, and I'm Kennon.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Mark.
And today we are going to be talking about Jumanji versus Zathura.
Yep, it's board game versus like
Board
old
game.
crank. No, the one in Zathura was like one of those old metal like.
It's still a board game.
Kind of, yeah.
But-
Until the remake comes out when it becomes a video game.
Yeah.
It's happening. It's already slated for release.
Buy a video game.
That's.
I guess they're just trying to keep up with the times. I don't know.
guess.
That's the wrong way to go. Anyways,
So our movie
we're not
is-
talking about that
it's
today.
Basically,
hang on. Let me. It's my turn. You really gonna act like a kid?
Yes.
On camera. So basically, the idea is that they're both board games, and two kids, and I guess an adult or two.
An adult joins them later
joins
in
later.
each
But they got to play through the game because weird things keep happening as they go through the game. In order to get back to their normal life, they have to complete it. That's basically the main idea. And what's interesting to note is that Zathura is considered a spiritual successor to Jumanji.
because they are both released by not only the same company, but they were both
By the
originally
same-
based on the same author. The
Yes.
author had written both stories
Sorry, I'm trying to get some
independently.
So we're going to go ahead and reveal which movie we thought was the better of the two. So there we go. That's
It's pretty unanimous.
that's a rhino.
I like the drawing. I wish I
can
would have did
see.
something on mine.
Yeah.
He has a question mark. Why do you have a question mark?
Yes,
Well,
please explain
We'll
that
talk
to us.
about this.
We're talking about it now.
One thing that I found interesting while watching both of these movies again, well, I'll give you a little background about my experience with the Zathura before Jumanji, because I
Okay.
feel that any 90s
So-
kid growing up in the 90s either saw Jumanji in theaters, which I did. I remember seeing
you saw Jumanji
in
first.
theaters.
Okay.
And, or then seeing it on VHS or something like that, or on
Okay.
TV. Whereas when I first heard of Zathura, because A, it's so similar to it, and because the marketing was from the same author as Jumanji, I actively avoided this movie for years. Like, I went out of my way to, without even seeing it, saying, that sucks, I don't want to see it, it's garbage, without ever laying eyes on it once.
Okay.
When I finally tracked it down and watched it, my opinion of which movie was better did not change, but my overall opinion towards the latter did, because I had seen it I was seeing it for the first time.
Okay.
Another thing that I wanted to bring up in conversation, and I guess this is more of a roundtable discussion with you guys, is when I was researching these two movies for our conversation today, I was surprised at the critical responses for these two movies and how vastly different they were. I'll have a little guessing game with you, Mark, right now.
Okay.
This one was
How high do you think Jumanji is rated on a website like Rotten Tomatoes? It's a scale from 1 to 100, with
Okay.
1 being the worst, 100 being great. So as of this recording, how much do you think Jumanji is rated on Rotten Tomatoes?
I would give it an 85%.
48%.
What?
Its current rating
Seriously?
on Rotten Tomatoes. Yes, I am.
So what is the third?
What do you think Zathura is going to be?
I would think it would be the 41 or the 47%.
75% certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes right
I
now.
hate it. Well, let's go ahead and launch into the story.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and talk about the story because that's where we're going
Yeah.
anyways.
So
with this.
basically, as a very simple overview, both films are.
No, we already did the overview.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we already. No, let's talk about the story. Like, one big gripe that Zathura gets from what I've been reading online is that it sticks too close to Jumanji, and I totally agree with that because it really is just Jumanji set in space.
It does have
That's
a lot
all
of
it
very
is.
similar
Like,
aspects to it.
The majority of the film is Jumanji. It's just
the
space.
whole concept, yeah.
Well,
Everything
not even
about
the
it.
concept, because they could have done stuff completely different. But I mean, like, you think about it, like, two kids start playing the game. An older adult comes out of the game to help the two kids. Then it's revealed that the adult was trapped in the game. Then the animals or the spaceship or the
dangers of the world.
take the board game away.
Yeah.
It's like beat for beat for beat for beat the exact same as Jumanji, and it
Which-
sticks. And it received a lot of negative reviews because it stuck too close to that.
Which is true, but at the same time, you do have a lot more. It did get negative reviews more so from 90s kids, our generation of people growing up. But like I said, people like, Ebert, guys from Entertainment Weekly, Newsweek, Variety, people who did not grow up with Jumanji as their childhood. It's not part of their thing. They preferred Zathura over Jumanji, even though it is almost beat for beat the exact same. So that's one of the reasons why I put the question mark down here. Is the reason why we all prefer Jumanji over Zathura because of nostalgia?
No.
Because of that 90s, we were kids, a lot of us saw this in theaters.
Man,
we were so attached to it.
To answer your question, for me, no.
Yeah.
Because Jumanji came out first. It had the superior story. They disregarded, because you mentioned before that it was written by an author. His name was Chris Van Alsing, I believe.
I think so.
Let me double check. Alsberg, I'm sorry. Chris Van Alsberg. He wrote both stories. They were actually children's books.
Yeah.
So that explains why Jumanji was marketed as a children's kid, because it was based off a children's book.
Yeah.
But they didn't follow the children's book. They kind of grabbed a few things from it. But if you were not even to like touch any other scene, but just update those scenes that involve those things, the animatronics and the CGI, just do it now with the current technology we have, like those complaints would go away, because technology has progressed
it's advanced
to be better.
Right.
It's kind of the thing of like, why was Jurassic Park, its CGI and its animatronics hold up now, so well after all these years?
Yeah.
And somebody was saying that Jurassic Park had the benefit of being one of the first movies to implement that. So people were eager to make it work, and so they kind of went above and beyond. They overworked on it.
Yeah.
And I still fault Jumanji for the bad stuff, but to counteract that point, if it was made today, not as a sequel like they're unfortunately doing,
like a remake.
I don't think it's a remake.
It's a reboot of the franchise, because that's why it's a video game. I mean, if you're gonna make a sequel, how does it transform from a board game into a video game?
Yeah. They're just trying to keep up with the times.
I agree with that, but like the great thing was that we had video games back when Jumanji was released, because it was released in 1995.
That's true.
But they set it up to be this old mystical thing
Yeah,
that had carried over for years, which I love. Because you had the two kids who had just finished their game,
it was
trying to get rid of the game.
1879, then cut 100 years later to 1979, which was when Robin Williams was a kid, and then cut like almost another 20 years ahead to...
It was like 26 years,
when little Kirsten Dunst
and
her brother find the board game. And there are a lot of other beat-for-beat similarities other than just the video game aspect. I mean, think about it. In Jumanji, these kids are moving into a house because of a family tragedy. Their parents have died.
Right.
In Zathura, these kids are spending time with their dad
divorced.
because they're going through a nasty divorce, which I will say, there was a moment in Zathura that made me think that it was a really like clever and sort of like cold line, was when the kids were complaining about how the new house sort of sucks, and it was like, we like mom's house better, and the dad's like, yeah, I like that better too, but she likes it most, so that's why she's got it. So like that very like cold, like, shut up, kid. I know that this sucks. It sucks for me too. I just like that line. I just like that line.
Things that I found funny too was that, like, and I know this wasn't intentional in the movie, but like I swear the younger brother was trying to kill his older brother.
Yeah,
because that's what it felt like.
In Zathura?
In Zathura, yeah, because like
I felt the older brother was trying to kill the younger brother.
No, man, because it was, if you go back and rewatch it after I tell you this. But it's like the scene where the older kid, which that kid, his name is Josh something, the actor's name. I can't remember, but he went to go on and play Hunger Games after he got older.
Oh, yeah.
Which I didn't realize until I watched it this last time.
Of course you wouldn't.
Yeah, he was a lot younger. Yeah. But no, the scene where he was getting ejected from the game because he tried to cheat.
Yeah.
Right. So his younger brother comes in, and like Dak Shepard is trying to get his jetpack on and stuff like that. So the younger brother comes in and he's trying to save the guy. Yeah. So he's like, "Here, I got this lamp," and he like tries to throw it up, and it crashes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like, I feel like the younger brother was just trying to like make it look like an accident.
Right. I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Because
that little kid was so attached to his brother. Like, I don't know.
And the acting was another thing to talk about. The acting was not as good.
Actors,
yeah, you know,
they were.
Jumanji was a lot better. Well, I mean, like anything that had Robin Williams in it was a lot better.
And that's another thing.
He was such a good actor.
That is another thing that may.
And let's now go into like camera work and the technical side and stuff like that.
With Jumanji, there's definitely like this.
You can join in anytime.
It feels like
I didn't care for the.
Even though it was released in the mid '90s, it has that sort of like '80s action movie feel to it. Kind of. Jumanji does a little bit, like in certain scenes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that that's the kind of feel that it has. Zathura kind of has more of a Saturday morning kids sci-fi show vibe.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Feel of they tried, but I have a feeling that they treated it like, that made-for-TV sci-fi movie that you see on Nickelodeon starring the cast from Victorious or something like that. Those kind of movies.
Well, we've been talking about it a lot.
Yeah.
What are your opinions on everything we've been talking about so far, or just your own opinions?
Well, Zach said earlier, we had a connection to Jumanji because we are the '90s. Kids, and that's kind of what we grew up on. I actually had the luxury of, because I've seen Jumanji before me and you had watched it, but I saw it in bits and pieces. It was one of those deals where I would see it at school when I was a kid, but I really wouldn't pay attention to it. So I actually had the pleasure of seeing them both back to back, in its entirety for the first time. And for me, I don't feel like that necessarily counts, the nostalgia thing.
Okay.
And I still feel as though Jumanji was a little bit better. Just, one, of course, we're visual guys. So for me, the visual of Jumanji was a whole lot better. Yeah. And just in my own opinion, I felt like, certain scenes in Zathura were a little underexposed. And then the kid, he just was not a good actor. And I'm definitely not trying to bash a kid or anything like that because, he's a kid and everything like that. But I don't know. It really did not do anything for me at all. You know what I mean?
One thing that kind of just came to mind while we were talking is that because the third takes place in the house, and the house is really kind of wood, which is a lot of brown.
Right.
Thinking back on those scenes, those kids don't really stand out a lot, and the action doesn't really stand out a lot until you get to. I can't remember what they were called in the movie, but it was the lizards. Zorgons. Until the Zorgons come because they're green. There's not really a lot of color variation in Zathura versus Jumanji. There's a ton of color variation because they're in a white house, and then everything
there's a lot
kind
more
of
set pieces in Jumanji.
The whole thing takes place over the entire town versus it's just in the house,
small space.
And maybe that's kind of another thing that really limits Zathura is that it only took place on one location.
Right.
Jumanji had way more actors in it.
Yeah, it was just
and that
going
helped.
on. Yeah,
and that really helped me get invested in the story because there was more than the three people.
The kids and the astronaut. Kristen Stewart again.
Who's
her
gone.
Twilight days is gone
to
instantly.
Be honest, to be honest, I thought she actually did a good job.
Yeah, I'm not saying that as an insult to her, but this is definitely before she became famous for Twilight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She's gone almost instantly through most
of this. Yeah, and it was there's no point in having her.
Did anyone else feel it was kind of a little weird when she was getting hot and bothered over the astronaut?
Oh yeah, and then it turns out to be her younger brother.
Yeah, that was
but they did that on purpose
too. Yeah, that really put me off. I was that's kind of gross. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they did it on purpose.
It also is that same sort of thing. It's now looking back on it as an audience member from the first couple of Star Wars movies, the original, before you knew that Luke and Leia were. Is going back on looking at now, it's man, they're getting so super close to just doing it any second. This is, although I would say that the one scene that I kind of liked, and it was hampered a little bit by the acting
in Zathura,
okay. That I did kind of like as a concept though, before we realized who the astronaut was. Mm-hmm. But I liked that he had this interesting backstory that he was a player of the game that got stuck there, and the reason why he got stuck there is because he did this thing to his own brother, which I thought was a really cool moment,
when he wished him away
until they revealed that it was him the whole time, sort of thing. Which
I actually didn't like that, to be honest, because I didn't like the fact that the character, the spaceman character, was the little kid.
Oh, I didn't like that.
No, it was horrible.
The idea that he was a former player and that
can I bring up another point really quick? So both kids at one point get the Make-A-Wish upon a star kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't they just wish for the game to end?
Because
I can no, it's convenient to plot. I can understand why the first kid didn't, because he was very upset. Something very tragic happened. Well, tragic to him happened.
Right.
The younger kid broke something, didn't he, or something? So it made sense that he was angry and trying not to wish away his younger brother. He wished for the football instead.
Right.
Which did he keep that football after the end of the game? Because he was playing with one at the end of the movie.
That's it. That's it from before.
But why didn't they just wish for the game to end?
Because they're stupid. They're stupid kids. They're stupid. That's all you can say.
It's not like any rules.
I
came
think
with the wish.
I think giving them the second wish was a mistake. Like
I
if
do
you
agree
left
with
it
that.
on the first one,
You would have glossed
Got
over
it,
it, and it
yeah.
would have been fine.
Right.
But yeah, the second wish, I totally agree with you on that. I think that's it. Unless I have any other
kind
interesting.
Do you guys have
I
any
mean,
final
facts.
thoughts on that one?
I mean,
or facts on that one?
I will say that, as I stated earlier, I actively avoided Zathura for a long time
Yeah.
because of the 90s nostalgia, because of like, oh, this is just Jumanji. When I sat down and watched it for the first time in a long time, it was better than I thought it was going to be. It doesn't make it great, but it was still not as much as I thought it was going to be originally. I liked the Zorgons. I thought the design on the reptile aliens was cool. That was a pretty nice. I liked the
A lot of work went into it. You
Yes,
could tell
I liked the cybernetic, the evil cyber robot, just because it was voiced by Frank Oz, who voiced Megatron.
yeah.
So, like, to have him play...
Frank Oz voiced a lot
Frank
of
Oz,
characters.
he voices
Yeah.
Abu
He did,
in Aladdin.
Didn't he do Yoda too?
No, that was
no.
Frank Oz.
So Frank Oz.
No,
Frank
Frank
Oz.
Welker.
Frank Welker. Okay.
was the voice of
Okay.
Megatron, and both of those guys do a lot of voice acting and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Jumanji, I love Robin Williams' performance. He's always got a good performance.
Of course, yeah. I don't think he's ever been
Kirsten
in a bad
Dunst
movie.
kids performance was pretty good. The boys' performance wasn't as good as Kirsten Dunst's.
Not at all.
Okay.
It wasn't as good as his sister.
Obviously, you do not agree with that sentiment at all.
And I would say that I prefer Jumanji for that mystical quality to it, because it gives that ancient board game feel
Right,
of like from the Victorian age or even previous beyond that.
Right.
Because it has the Victorian hunter show up at one point,
Right.
but that's really the only like Victorian-ish thing about it. It's more like just a primal sort of thing. And of course, Jumanji's got the bigger legacy. Like
Of course.
it's got
Yeah,
of course.
the board game Jumanji was released from it. There was an animated
legendary.
TV series for a while.
That was I remember actually watching that as a
I
kid.
watched
That was
a few
weird.
episode of it. The brother always turned into like an animal, and like every
Yeah,
episode.
and then like the way they would play the game in the TV, because it was a cartoon TV show. Yeah. Really, kind of the only way they could do it.
Yeah.
They went into the board game, so they went
Yeah.
into the jungle, and Robin Williams' character just stayed in the jungle.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what
because
the
he
point
got
of
caught
it
up
was.
in the jungle, or why?
Yeah,
why-
it was.
why
It was,
it
it
like
was
that?
one of those weird things. Like, well, if it's in the same universe, this shouldn't happen because the game is over.
Yeah, they
Right,
finished the
right.
game,
Yeah.
and they totally got rid of Bonnie Hunt's character.
Yeah.
I don't think she was even in it at all.
She wasn't that essential to the movie.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, she was like she was critical to the plot.
She had
you know?
some good points in it, but like.
No, they couldn't play the game without her.
That's true.
True, but like I
Which is
feel
another
that
aspect I
they
really
could have made
Yeah.
her a little bit more
You're saying
interesting.
stuff now just to agree. Huh?
No, I really did. No,
All right, so those are my
genuinely.
final thoughts
Okay.
on Jumanji
Well,
versus Zathura.
Before I go into my final thoughts, I wanted to point out one thing.
Okay.
Looking over the notes I have for these, the budget for both of these movies were actually the same. They were both $65 million
To make? Or?
to make.
Okay.
To make. Jumanji took in a box office of 262.8 million. Zathura only made 64.3 million, so it didn't even make back its budget.
Yeah, they didn't even break even.
Nope,
Which is
didn't even
why
break
you don't
even.
hear a lot about Zathura, because in Hollywood's mindset
Yeah.
is that even if a movie is, I'm not saying Zathura is the greatest, but even if a movie is genuinely great,
Yeah.
if it doesn't make the bank back that it costs to make it, it's a failure as far as Hollywood is concerned.
Well,
Which is
some of their
fair, though.
successes are even considered failure on paper.
Yeah.
Because the whole that whole thing. But mostly Zathura lost its audience because Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire came out the following week. So that's where they lost a lot of their audience.
Can't compete with the Harry.
So my final thoughts, my final thoughts on this is looking back on it, thinking about it. I still prefer Jumanji over Zathura.
Yeah.
I think Zathura just story-wise stuck too close to the original story of Jumanji. It could have done a lot of things different, and it didn't.
Right.
And that's where it lost me. Everything else looks great about it. You know, camera work looks great.
Yeah.
CGI looks great. Action looks great. The acting, you know, for
Yes.
being for kids, it's hit and miss in certain scenes.
Yeah.
But the story, it was not original, and especially for something that is that specific.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
they really could have done anything else. So I'm still sticking with Jumanji. I think that's the better of the two films.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I really do like Jumanji over Zathura just because Jumanji had, it just had so much going on. It had so much going on. It was easier for me to invest in that than it was Zathura. And plus, with Zathura, I really could not get over the horrendous acting from the kids. Sorry about that. But that's my final thoughts. Like, I just like Jumanji a whole lot better, you know?
Yeah.
So tell us what you guys think. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? If you have any ideas for any movies that you guys want us to watch, please leave a comment. We'll look over all of them, and we'll see you next time. So I'm Kennon.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Mark.
See you later.